Walked up into St James's and my hands, everything, my whole body just lit up. I've got goosebumps all over my skin.
I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those times, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side, I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around me, throw that to the side, I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713 to the 21, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low key. I'm sipping low key and honest, flying rider. I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those times, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the
Hey.
Missed that tune, boys. I've missed that tune.
It's been a while.
Who's that guy? Who's that guy? hang on, whoa. Are we letting Chris back on? The last time Chris was on, he was very moany and very downbeat, and the world was against him. So we'll let him on if he promises that that's gone away. Is it gone away?
It has, mate. It has. Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah, I was nodding away then when you said that. Yeah, and I was a little bit beaten down, wasn't I? I wouldn't say negative, but I was a bit down in the dumps. I'll admit, I was.
But we're back.
We're back.
We're back. As Lisa just put in the chat, the terrible trio. I can't believe it. Can't believe it. But we are back nonetheless. Welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC, the full loaded transfer show. We're back in business and we've got a lot to talk about tonight. So bear with us because we're gonna get through it. But of course, need to know how the boys are doing. Certainly after come on, England. We got the win. We're in the final of the Euro.
All right, good luck. See you later.
But that aside, for now, Daz, Chris, how are you on this fine Thursday evening?
All good with me. Okay. First of all, best of luck to England. Look, I do always wish you luck before the game. And look at I don't know how you've managed it, but you've made it to the final. So we'll see what happens in that final. Spain are pretty good. So and. You know what? While I'm at it, because I'll forget about it later, and then before I answer a question, how I am, just for the Loaded Ultras members sweepstake, best of luck to Nine and Shane Mawson as well, who were in that final, and they're guaranteed prizes now as well. Both the boys there, so let's see who takes it home. So best of luck to both the lads. But how am I? I'm good. Working away today. Actually getting a bit of work done on the house as well. So just kind of a lot of things ongoing, and then a lot of things going all over the place as well. But how are you, Chris?
Good, mate. Yeah, good. I'm not going to lie. You all know I'm not the biggest England fan. Like, I must admit, I've really enjoyed the Euros. I think it's been fantastic. And credit to Ollie Watkins. That was a brilliant finish yesterday. I've got to take my hat off to him there. But yeah, I enjoyed the match yesterday. Well, I enjoyed the first half yesterday, and then I enjoyed the last 5 minutes of the game yesterday. But yeah, it was a tough watch, the start of that second half, not going to lie. And obviously, again, I'm disappointed not to see Anthony Gordon appear. But I've really enjoyed the tournament. I think the game on Sunday will be fantastic. I think England will be up against it, but I think we've got every chance. I really, really do. So there's no reason why not. But what I was going to lead in with is, I just can't wait for the club footy to be back. I'm proper missing it now. I'm so missing it, and I feel ready. I've seen videos on there. Daz, thanks to you, mate. I was on your X before, and there was all videos of Joe Linton back in training and Lloyd Kelly in training, and I was like, oh yeah, just bring it now. Just bring it. We've added someone else to the backroom staff, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. We've got Paul Mitchell in. Lots of reasons to be excited. I want that transfer window to start ticking on now. And yeah, I'm going to start getting there. Yeah, really excited for the start of the season. So can't wait. How are you, Pete? You all right, mate?
Just before you go to Pete, answer this question, Chris, because I'm sure it's more than Stu want to know as well.
Yes, Stu. So what we were thinking was for the prizes for the Euro finals, the winner is going to receive a £50 voucher, and the runner-up is going to receive a £25 voucher. So best of luck, obviously, to Nine and Shane. But yeah, that is the that's going to be the payouts this year. But yeah, best of luck to both the boys. And let's just hope it's a good match as well. Something good for everyone to watch. But yeah, fingers crossed. And Pete, how are you, mate? You good?
I'm great. I'm great.
On
top of the world today. I'm not gonna lie. Brilliant to see the boys bring it home and take us to the final. Back-to-back Euro finals, unbelievable. I actually think that was the best performance that they've put in across the whole tournament. Thought they deserved to win. Ollie Watkins has proved in that one moment why he's in the squad. And he's been doing that. He scored that same goal many times last season, fully justified. And it just shows that we've got strength and depth in the squad. We can bring players on that can make a difference. Cole Palmer as well. On top of that, I don't normally do this on a Thursday. I haven't done this for a long while, but the brand is out. One day off, summer holidays.
Half day.
Throwing in there the old half day tomorrow. And looking forward to the summer holidays commencing. That is for sure. Very, very good at this moment in time. And look,
before we move on, Pete, that quick one. I'm mainly asking you, Pete, because Daz, I'm sure you won't care. In fact, Daz will be fuming if it happens. What I want to ask you, Pete, if England win it, are we getting a bank holiday?
Yeah. It won't have.
Daz will be fuming if we get that bank holiday.
It won't affect me. For one, I won't be here, and two, it's some holiday anyway, so I'm off regardless. But the Prime Minister Keir Starmer was asked, I think today, with regards to it, and he almost, without saying it, alluded to that something will be done if they win it, and I think there'll be a bank holiday. There'll be a bank holiday thrown in there.
First them in Spanish citizenship if Spain wins. So
they'll definitely throw something in there for sure. First major trophy since '66. They've got to do it. They've got to give us something. And honestly, I do think we've got a genuine chance of winning. Spain are a superb team, the favourites, no doubt about it. But we've proven that we can dig in and go with the best of them. That is for sure. But I just want to borrow the chat just for a second because we normally do this, and there is a lot
38 of them.
I'll fly through them as quickly as I can. We'll get our tunes in for all of you, and it is growing. And love for everyone to throw in their tunes into N9. Great to have you in there, Nathan as well. Kieran in the house, Steve, Noxie, Lisa, of course. Joe in the house. You got Colin, Geordie Tune for Life. Is that what I want? I love that name. Is that what I want? I think that's super.
You're the one I want.
Yeah. It is brilliant. Toon Talk. Great to have Toon Talk in the house. Scott, we're coming. We're coming to Vegas. We're coming some point soon, hopefully. Lesonator, great to have you in there. Jimmy, Mike, Mad Mark, we've got Chris, Sai, David, Leon, Toon, is it Toon
Type?
Yeah, we got there. Charles in the house, great to have you in, Charles. Hope you're well. William, Dave, Anthony, Daniel's in there. Great to have him back in the chat. David, Anne in there as well. Nikolai, we're going to talk Portugal in this show, no doubt about it. Chris is in the house. You've got Jim. They've got the Clan Lad in there. Jacqueline, John, Dean. Brilliant stuff. all the tunes in the house. And there's probably more already popping in there as well, but they were the ones that we starred in there. So great to have you in there with your tunes. Absolutely superb. And boys, we're on a high. We're buzzing. We're great. We're glad to be back. Talking all things Newcastle United, but we're going to start on a little bit of a soury note, because obviously yesterday, in fact, we got some news, and Craig, it was Matt Hughes of The Sun, but Craig Hope, from a Newcastle perspective, reported that Amanda Staveley and Mirdad Gudusi will be leaving Newcastle United. Their 6% share of the club will be sold to one of PIF or the Rubens. And Keith Downey, obviously friend of the channel, has reported the same as well. No official statement as yet, but it's expected to come at some point. Interestingly, Keith Downey puts at the end of his tweet, unclear whether this was their own choice, but general feeling is they still had unfinished business. Boys, what do we make of that news? Amanda Staveley, Mirdad Gudusi, almost responsible for this takeover happening and this great era of the last 2-3 years. What are your initial thoughts, boys, now we've had time to kind of digest it 24 hours?
Me, I'm absolutely devastated about it, to tell you the truth. I'm just hurt by it, because I absolutely loved Amanda and what she did fighting for Newcastle to get our takeover through bringing investors in the first time round. There was a bid, and then going back and getting other investors. And I put out this when I saw it: don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. Because but it hurts, and it's raw as well. You saw in the documentary, you saw every time she gave an interview that the love she has for the club, the love she has for she got it. She had the passion for it as well. She still has that passion for it. It's just very sad. I never wanted her to leave the club. I always wanted her to be part of it in some capacity. Things change and blah blah blah. But I know, a year and a half ago, we had a conversation off air, and I only then I found out things behind the scenes that we're not going to get into. But it's public knowledge. And we don't know the reason why she's leaving. It could be a shake-up. It could be because of the PSR thing. It could be health-related issues. It could be this. It could be that. It could be the other. It could be financial things. Who knows? But I just wish her the best of luck. I never wanted her to leave. I know Mirdad as well. I remember interacting with Mirdad when we were trying to get the takeover through on Twitter at the time. Just absolutely devastating in that fashion, and she's like a mother to everyone. She's that kind of personality, and I'm sure, okay, you can just look at if you look at the business sides, okay, maybe it makes sense business wise and financially, and where we want to go and where we need to get to as well. But I think there's still a role for her at the club, and so it's very sad if that's it, and that's what it sounds like, that she'd have the big cut ties with it. And also, if it's not her own final decision either, herself and Mirdad. So just kind of gutted about it, to tell you the truth. I think it's going to be different now. And whatever was going on in the background, she kind of brought that human face, the human element to it. So big shoes to fill as they go forward, but maybe that's just direction we're going. I hope it's the right decision for whoever made it as well. But that's my thoughts. I'm good about it. Chris, what about you?
Yeah, so Daz, I think you've summed it up really well. Obviously, I was I say I was shocked. I wasn't shocked in terms of I kind of seen this coming. I just thought it happened a lot sooner than what I thought it would. I always felt this was inevitable. When you look at it purely from a business point of view, I was describing it to my brother and my dad the other day, because they were asking me about it, and asking me what I thought, and I said, for me, it was always going to be difficult, and the best way to describe it, I suppose, is and this is how I described it to them. You know, if you've got a business and you want to pump, say, 100 million into the business, when you're in a shared ownership, you know, if you've got, in this example, you've got someone who owns 80%, someone who owns 14%, someone who owns 6%, you're always going to have the 80% person putting 80 million in, the person who owns 14% putting 40 million in, and then the 6% person putting the 6 in. And I think going forward, because of the trajectory that we're on, because of where we want to go to, it was always going to be difficult for Amanda and Mehrdad to, you know, be able to kind of back up their end of the deal. So from a business point of view, I did kind of feel like, you know, their shares would evaporate, if you like. I mean, they started at 10% and we'd already seen them reduce to 6%. So I was expecting it to kind of go littler and littler and littler, and then maybe they stay on, you know, in like a paid capacity. That obviously hasn't happened, but unfortunately, I think because we've brought in, you know, some real big hitters when it comes to, you know, the jobs that we've hired for recently, it was always going to be difficult to kind of find a role for Amanda and Mehrdad. I mean, I'm sure it's all, well, I hope it's all ended very amicably, and I'm sure they'd be more than welcome back at St James's Park whenever, you know, they wanted to be. As far as we're concerned as fans, to me, and I'm sure for many others, they leave as heroes. Like, we wouldn't be where we are without Amanda and Mehrdad, and we certainly won't forget that. What they've done for the city, what they've done for the club, it can't be underestimated. And I'm obviously very, very disappointed, but as I say, I'd kind of prepared myself for it a little bit. And when you look at it from a business point of view, you know, it does make sense. Is it sad? Of course it is. I thought you summed it up really well with your poster, Daz. You know, it's something that we'll look back on and always think, you know what, that was a really good time, not just for the club, but for the city. So yeah, very sad, but you know, things move on, people move on. But I obviously, you know, wish them both the very, very best, and hopefully, you know, it's what was it, that famous saying? It's more farewell rather than goodbye. So hopefully, you never know. They may come back to the club in some capacity. They may still come and watch the games. Who knows? The amount of effort and the amount of work that they put into the club, they probably feel very proud of what they've done, and so they should. So yeah, I'm sad, but at the same time, you know, I think it was a good business decision.
Yeah, not necessarily surprised. I think the writing was on the wall when we talked about it around 6 months ago when they started selling their shares. It was coming at some point. Firstly, the takeover doesn't happen without them. And it's something we will always remember. You boys have touched on that, so I won't touch on that anymore. They were the reason why we're having the era and the good feel around the club, because they didn't give up on us. It's as simple as that. However, on the flip side to that, this was always going to come. This was never a long-term situation. And it was almost rumored about a year and a half ago that they were never going to be staying long term, that they were always going to be part of the early part of Newcastle United's growth, and then they were going to move on. And the reason being is because obviously initially they did a lot of the day-to-day stuff. Why? It's because they inherited a shell of a club. They didn't have any staff in place, certainly not the amount of staff that you need at a Premier League club level. We've talked about it previously over the years. We're only starting now to build and develop the right backroom staff that's needed for the level of the Premier League club that we want to be. And they were a big part of guiding us and navigating us through the first 2 or 3 years. The issue you've got now is if you look at the structure that we've got in place with Yasser Al-Rumayyan at the top, you've got Darren Eales, you've got Peter Silverstone, you've now got Paul Mitchell, and there'll be an additional person that we'll talk about very shortly to add to that structure. You've got to ask yourself the question, where does Amanda and Mehrdad fit into that? Where is their role within that? And you've got to say their role becomes very, very diluted the more you look at the staff that's already in place. And what we have right now are specialists within their field. Darren Eales, Peter Silverstone, Paul Mitchell, they're specialists within their field. And we won't stop there. And so it's almost like they've served the purpose. And that's not being horrible. That's meaning that they've done what they came to do, and now it's time to move on. Now, as owners, they were never had the financial backing that the Reuben brothers or PIF had. So it was always going to be difficult for them. It was always going to be difficult for them because they have nowhere near the level of finance or financial power that the other two do. So it was always going to become a problem at some point. It's become a problem now. So therefore, that's why they had to sell their shares initially, and that's why they will eventually be sold off completely. Now, at that point, I put it down to, tweeted out at the time, I said, it's the right thing for the club. It's the right thing for the business. It's the right thing to move on and develop and grow. Sad that they're the face of the club. They have created the family feel that we have. The pictures at the end of the season where everybody's together. You know, you see them embracing the players and their wives and their children and the love that they give, particularly Eddie Howe as well and Jason Tyndall. Yeah. We're going to miss that family feel. And the club are going to have to try and keep that together somehow, some way. How they do that, I don't know, but they're going to need to keep that family feel together because that's why a lot of these players love playing for Newcastle United. Firstly, for the club. Secondly, for the fans and the area, but that family feel of being wanted at that club. It's almost been to our detriment because we've got players like Miggy and other players that don't want to leave because they feel very, very comfortable here. So it's kind of gone against us in some way, but it's a great thing to have. Now it's time to really kick on as a club. If we want to be one of the biggest, we've got to be able to get the best in class in all positions. And I think this is where the separation has taken place. What's interesting, a few people have talked about it. Do you think, boys, that it was a decision for Amanda and Mirdad to step away? Or do you think PIF have made the decision for them? That's been a topic of conversation over the last 24 hours. Where do you boys sit in that particular question?
So you're asking, was the decision made for them? I don't know, Pete. No one really knows. Are we ever going to know either? Well, and could there be non-disclosure agreements and everything like signed as well? You know what? We need a statement from the club big time now. We really do this. And I know the last time we asked for that after the PSR situation, people shut us down in the chat. And no, look at this is business, but there's so much happened now. We kind of need a bit of clarity as well. What, especially with all this news about Amanda and Mirdad. And we need, even in the Irish Mags chat as well. I was reading that through that, and there was people were saying like we were kind of promised a lot of communication. We got a bit, but we haven't got it hasn't gone overboard either with the communication. And I hope it's going to get better, not worse. Now that Amanda and Mirdad are out of the picture, I think we do need to be kept in the loop of certain things, not everything, not every little detail, but big decisions like this that has happened. We have no say in them, but it'd be good to know what's the thinking is now. A state of the nation kind of address is needed, I think myself.
Yeah, Chris, you're in agreement with Daz there, and look, I'll pose a different question to you, and a couple of people have touched on this with the same the same sort of question. So I'll just borrow chat just for a second, Dad. Toon Talks put this with Amanda and Mirdad leaving. Do you think Eddie will have pressure on him next season? There was another person in the chat that put a very similar question, and we'll find it in just a second. But what do you think about that question, Chris? And do you agree with that?
You know what? It's a really, really good question, actually, from Toon Talk. And I'll be honest, I hadn't even really thought of that. But yeah, I do. I think it will put a little bit more pressure on Eddie because. So Amanda made that.
It's the same question.
Yeah. From Jordy Soon for Life. I do actually. Yeah, I do because we know how fondly Amanda and Mirdad both spoke of Eddie Howe, and he was their appointment. And from what we've heard, they were the driving force behind Eddie Howe. Not saying that obviously PIF and other people involved, didn't want Eddie Howe. I wouldn't say that, but Amanda and Mairdad, were fully behind him, and you could tell that in the way that they spoke about him, the way that they acted with him, on the pitch, off the pitch. You could just see that there was a lot of love and a lot of respect there. So yeah, you could say that Eddie Howe's kind of lost his confidence, if you like, because they were probably his biggest supporters, and he started the journey with them. He was their first appointments when they got rid of Steve Bruce, thank goodness. So yeah, I think Eddie Howe will be disappointed, and yeah, I think it's a great point. I think it does heap a little bit more pressure on Eddie Howe, because all these new directors coming in. Davin Eales came in, and then followed by, well, there's that many, I can't remember them all, but yeah, there's been about 4 or 5 appointments. Most recently, the one today, and also Paul Mitchell. So there's lots of new faces, lots of new personalities. So Eddie Howe, he's almost got to kind of prove himself again, I would say. They will look at the job he's done, and they will think, you know what, he's taken Newcastle, far. We're ahead of schedule, as people keep saying, and I do believe that we are ahead of schedule. But we said it, didn't we, boys, at the back end of last season? Last season, we had the injuries. Not the excuses were there, but we can kind of understand the drop off. I think everybody at the club was expecting a drop off, and the fact that we didn't make Europe was really, really disappointing, given that it was in our hands with a few games to go. But it was a long, hard season. There was a lot of injuries, but I don't think Eddie Howe was going to be able to, plug that reason at the end of next season if it happens again. I think we've all said, I think it's going to be a lot of pressure on him, and he's going to have to deliver this season. There's no distraction of European football this season, so it will be all eyes on Eddie Howe, and I think it will be a challenge for him this season. So yeah, I think it's a really good point.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting because we now don't have the buffer there, which Amanda and Mairdad were. What we've got now is ultimately the chain of command, and PIF will ultimately, it'll be going straight to them, and they'll be making the decision. So you will really start to see them for what they really want this club to be. There's been question marks, boys, about PIF in recent weeks with everything with PSR. Are PIF really interested? Have they kind of like have they waned their interest in Newcastle United? Are their interests further afield? Well, we're going to find out.
We're about to find out. Yeah.
There you go. Now, the one thing you'll find is that, first of all, with Amanda and Mairdad going, that means that there's more emphasis on them to be part of the day-to-day running of the club, the saying of the transfers, the involvement of what is going on in and around it. They're going to have more involvement. So if anything, at this point, they're going to be more interested in what's going on. But their decisions that go next will tell us everything that we need to know about what their intentions are for Newcastle United. Don't forget, we said last summer, maybe even this time last year, that there'll be decisions made where people leave the club that we don't want to leave the club. We just assumed it was players. Could also be staff, and we're proving and we're seeing this right now. So it'll be really interesting to see how this progresses as we move on.
Just one thing, people. Because first of all, I'll put this up as well in a second, because we are going to drop from Twitter in a second, or X. So make sure you get over to YouTube. The link is in right underneath where you're viewing now, if you're viewing on X. But this is an interesting one from 9. I didn't think of this, but he says, I could see Amanda and Mairdad moving on to help PIF in their other acquisitions for a multi-club model. And maybe, that's the bad news we've seen, but we don't know what kind of good news is in the background. That'd be a lovely way to spin it. But who knows? We won't know that until there's some kind of a statement from the club.
Yeah, well, didn't Amanda, or wasn't Amanda involved in the Live Golf in the PGA involvement to get sorting out the golf and,
yes,
and sort of merging that
she's
together?
Proved her worth again.
Definitely, even outside of Newcastle United, since she's been involved with the club, so she clearly has a very important skill set that PIF clearly know and understand. So therefore, who's to say that's not the case, and that her interests are going to be used elsewhere. But yeah, look, they'll be still involved with the club. You'll still see the Instagram post and various other acknowledgements to Newcastle United. Their love for Newcastle United is absolutely clear. They may have only been here for 3 years, but they fought for us for 18 months before that. They care about Newcastle United. They want the absolute best. So look, it's a negative that they're going to be leaving the day-to-day involvement with the club, but it could be seen as a positive for how the club kicks on and where we want Newcastle United to be, and getting the right people in that are going to be, as we keep saying, the best in class within that structure that Newcastle United are building now. So lots to be positive about, would you say, moving forward?
Oh yeah, lots to be positive about. This is a downer for sure. But I'm not going to get all moany and spit the dummy out and throw the toys out of the pram like Chris the last time he was on the show. But I want to give a few shout outs again. Thanks, Chris, for reminding me as well. We've got a new member. Welcome back, I think, Luke, to the being a loaded ultra member. If you would also like to be a member, hit that join button. And Anne to an army is at it again. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you,
gifting memberships, loaded ultra memberships too, not once, but twice. Thank you, Anne, for that. And Anne is there with the donation as well. She's on fire.
Thanks, Anne.
And nice one, Anne. Well done. And it's a pity you got knocked out of the Euros, though. You did get a long way in the competition. We'll go to one last thing before we go to get into the transfers and shut down on next as well. But because Daniel uses his 14 months membership questions goes, do you think Mandy's court case has played a part?
Quite possibly. I think I did read an article. I must admit, I forget who the article was from, but I did read an article saying as much as that, Daniel, just saying that that could be a factor. We won't know. But if it is the case, perhaps, and to kind of answer Pete's initial question, were Amanda and Mia asked to step away? If we're going down that route, perhaps they have been asked to step away, and maybe it's a bit of a mutual decision where they've kind of understood that they need to. Obviously, we're waiting for official confirmation from the club, and we're waiting for the statement from the club. But yeah, that could feasibly that could be one of, if not the main reason.
I think absolutely is. Not the only reason, but I think that's definitely a reason. Let's not forget, like, there was concerns around sort of bankruptcy and a lack of money for at a stage. There was a number of articles coming out around Amanda Staveley, and look, the selling of the shares kind of told us where it was going here. The shares were only going to get diluted more and more. Whether Rubens or whether PIF buy the remaining 6%, I don't think it matters, or I don't think it will be decided right now, but it will at some point. But I think that the finances that both Maidan and Amanda will gain from that will only benefit them in whatever they plan to do next. So I do think it was a factor, but I also do think that they didn't. I do think PIF maybe have made this decision. It doesn't seem like something that Amanda would do just out of the blue like this. I just think if she was planning on leaving, they would have probably done it at a different time. Maybe they would have announced it before the end of the season to have a sort of goodbye and an acknowledgement of some form. The fact that it's happening now, right before pre-season, and it come out now, doesn't make me think that this is something that they've planned. But I could be wrong. I think we've got another super chat. Wow.
Cheers, Rich. God, this is a tough one, Rich. Name your starting Excel for the first game of the season, including predictions on possible new signings. Go away. Where you'll be all night trying to do that one. Keep that one. Keep that one till August.
One thing's for certain: Isaac, Bruno, Gordon.
Yeah.
Does here's one for you boys. Only so we can part answer Rich's question. Here's one for you. Trippier or Tino starting?
Tino.
No brainer. There'll only be one of them at the club, in my opinion.
Do you think so? Do you think he's going to go? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I don't. I'm kind of on the fence as to whether I think it's a good decision or not. But I do think that he will leave, and I think Tino will start regardless of whether he's gone at that point or not. I think Tino will start.
Rich follows it up with another little segue question for you, Pete. You're not starting to back
Is he not left yet? Come on,
not yet, mate. Not yet.
He's been kicked out a week. We booted him out about a week ago. He's not left. Come on, man.
While we're on Rich's questions or comments, let's go to this one. Have we got our 10 million for Fraser yet, lads, that you were demanding?
No.
Oh, hold on a second. Why not?
We said 8 million, didn't we? We'll have 8 million.
Yeah, you probably did.
Well,
yeah.
I felt promising though, Pete. Sorry, I was just going to say before you come to that. I felt promise. It was promising what I've had earlier, in that Newcastle and Southampton are still negotiating on the fee for Ryan Fraser. So you're telling me there's hope.
There you go. It's there. As Scott Wilson's reported, in talks with them still. He clearly wants to move. They clearly want him. But so far unable to agree terms for the winger's permanent switch. But yeah, there you go. And there's a couple added in there as a bonus. Isaac Hayden and Jamal Lewis. They want all three gone. But I do think that will happen. I do think it will happen. Southampton at the moment are trying to be hard negotiators. They're negotiating for Flynn Downs as well, with West Ham. So they want him as a permanent deal. And there's at the moment this kind of Kyle Walker-Peters could potentially be going to West Ham as part of that deal. So they're really kind of playing a hard bargain with teams at the moment to try and kind of get the best deals possible. They're trying to make sure that they get these players in for as cheap as possible. But I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that Newcastle United is standing their ground. And the reason being is that actually, for one, Southampton desperately want Ryan Fraser. 2, Ryan Fraser desperately wants Southampton. And 3, Ryan Fraser knows if this deal doesn't go through, he's back with the under-21s because he ain't seen the first team at all. And yeah, it'll be frustrating for us to kind of see his last year of his contract out and continue to pay those wages. That would be frustrating. But that's why I think there'll be a deal to be done, because Southampton need to stay up and they need experienced Premier League players. And Ryan Fraser is that. He is that. And to get him for a cheap fee rather than paying a bigger fee to get in another player, I think they'd be mad to turn that down. But I think there will be an agreement somewhere for sure.
Pete, I think this is where we were coming from with it. I totally agree with what you're saying. And you know, we said, didn't we, when we last spoke about it, that you know, if they were to sign an equivalent winger who, you know, can do a job similar to Ryan Fraser. I know we don't think very highly of Ryan Fraser, given the, you know, the way that he's kind of been cast aside by Eddie Howe, who seems like a perfectly reasonable kind of guy. So I would imagine that Ryan Fraser's burnt his bridges and he's probably acted very unreasonably. I think that would be fair to say. You know, we've been talking loads, haven't we, about Summerville? Summerville's getting valued at 20 million. Ryan Fraser had a good season for Southampton last season. He contributed a lot to them being promoted. And, you know...
Higher than 8.
Mate,
higher than 8 million, is it now, Chris?
I wouldn't know. I just think I like the fact that we're no longer a pushover. We're no longer a pushover, and I think, you know, Ryan Fraser, all things aside to do with his behaviour and whatnot, he's still a decent player. He's a decent player, and I think, you know, nowadays 8 million is not a lot of money. It really, really isn't. Even if we're pushing for 5-6 million, if Southampton got him for like 2 or 3 million, I think it'd be a steal. I really, really do, because on his day, he's a good player.
Craig Leach has put in the chat the rumours are that Fraser is holding out for 3 million because he didn't ask for a transfer. Now, if he has done that, then he's absolutely mad. Like, if he really wants Southampton and he wants to go and play football, like, you're going to get a signing on fee for signing for them. You're going to get wages. Yes, they're not as high as maybe being at Newcastle, but you're going to be playing regular football. You're still going to get a good wage. And then you've got a chance of building on that wage because he's 28, 29. Like, so he's not like in his mid 30s or anything like that. He's got a chance to build and kind of get maybe a new contract even after that point at Southampton. Like, he's all he's doing is screwing himself out of an opportunity of really kind of recapturing his career, because the last couple of years he hasn't really done anything. And the form at Southampton has been one of his best bits of football recently. I don't know. But I do think it will come to a head at some point when because remember the Championship starts earlier, when they're properly into pre-season and they're properly kicking on, and he's still sitting at home because probably Newcastle won't even have him back. That's when maybe he'll get a little bit twitchy and he might go, okay, I need to get this deal done. So if that is the case and he's asking for that sort of money, I don't see that being an issue for too long, personally. But we'll see. There's a few players on their way out. We're going to kind of rewind back though, because there has been a little bit of news with regards to the continued structure of Newcastle United. But before that, some positive news. The boys are back. They're back in pre-season training. They're in today. I love that training top. I love it. I need it. I need that training top. It is outstanding. I'm going to be spending a hell of a lot of money this season on Newcastle gear. I'm not going to lie. But the boys are back. Odysseus Vlachodimos is in town, as is John Ruddy. All the boys are back in. New signing, Lloyd Kelly, in getting used to his new teammates, and some old friends. Some that we didn't think might well make pre-season.
You told him he'd gone. He wouldn't turn up.
Yeah, I didn't think he'd be there. I wasn't sure, but he is. Callum Wilson, obviously Jacob Murphy back in pre-season training, and of course the eagerly anticipated return of this man.
Sandro.
Ole. He is back. And there's another picture as well. I haven't grabbed it because, quite frankly, there was too many pictures to grab hold of for pre-season. But he looks an absolute monster physically. He's doing some leg work, and his legs look absolutely huge, which most football's legs are because of the work that they do. But he looks absolutely in prime fitness. And I don't know if you've watched the video, boys. The little 40-minute clip. Not 40 minutes, 40 seconds.
40 seconds.
I wish it was 40 minutes, but of Sandro. But his English is pretty good. The way he's communicating with the boys, like he's obviously used his time well to develop his English. He's full English communication, no issues at all. So yeah, that will definitely stand us in good stead, because that was an issue that he talked about when he first joined. Obviously, the communication side being an issue, not a non-factor anymore, which is great. And of course, the main man, the boss, the big boss.
Nice jacket as well.
Lovely jacket.
Honestly, when I saw that picture, I was like, I need it. I need the jacket. Yeah. We're going to be, I think we're going to spend a little bit of money. So the boys are back in pre-season. That's the good thing. That's what we want to see. The boys getting ready, primed, and ready to rock and roll for the new season 24-25. However, has been some news with regards to the structure of the team. I want to get your opinions on this. So we know that Paul Mitchell is in. However, there is likely to be a new addition, and this was news just before we went live, an exclusive from Craig Hope again. James Bunce, the ex-Monaco performance director, will be joining Paul Mitchell at Newcastle United, as the restructuring of the hierarchy continues. And this may well fall into the conversation we just had about Amanda and Mirdad and the structure of the backroom staff. It says it's likely his role will be the director of performance. And James Bunt's picture here, whilst at Monaco. Boys, what's your initial thoughts of hearing that news dropping literally just before we came onto the show?
Well, I did what I did with Paul Mitchell, Pete, and I looked him up on LinkedIn and asked him would he come on the show, but it was too late. It was already too late to give him. But I just looked at what he'd done. Southampton for 6.5 years. Oh God, he had about 5 different roles at Southampton. Started as schoolboy strength and conditioning coach all the way up to head of athletic development, then worked for the Premier League, head of sports science, head of elite performance, then went on to the USA Soccer Federation, director of high performance, then on to, he was there for 3.5 years, on to Monaco for 3 years and 3 months as a director of performance. Then he was kind of doing work with San Diego FC as a performance consultant. And now he's come to Newcastle. And as a contact of Paul Mitchell's, some say his right-hand man. So let's see how it all pieces together. It looks like Paul Mitchell is putting a team together now to tackle what needs to be done. So it is all change. Best of luck to James in his role, and bring on those signings.
Definitely. Yeah, Chris, clearly, well, I say clearly, but is it a clear indication that Paul Mitchell's got a significant amount of influence in what he's doing within his role?
Yeah, do you know what, Pete? You've hit the nail on the head. When you said when you obviously the announcement came in, and then you mentioned the fact that he worked at Monaco before, it was like, right. So Paul Mitchell's clearly said, I wouldn't mind bringing a couple of lads in with me as well, and I think it can only be a positive thing. Again, going back to the question earlier, does it heap a little bit more pressure on Eddie Howe? You could argue it does. When you're bringing in outside people who obviously work together, have worked together in the past, it mounts up that pressure because they're going to have that rapport, they're going to have that teamwork, I think it's only going to be a good thing. Another director, this time of performance. It just looks like the club is really starting to be run correctly. And when you think it's mad, isn't it? When you look back at the Ashley regime, and we had Lee Charnley, who basically just did everything. Lee Charnley did absolutely everything, not very well. I hasten to add from what we've heard. And now we're getting in top brass. We're getting in, the people at the top of their field. And I think that's only exciting news for us because it just means that we're being run incredibly well. We're getting the right people in to do the job that we need. So every time we hire someone new in terms of staff, it makes me even more excited for the season to come, because you would hope that a person like Bunce, who's coming in as performance director, stuff like what happened last season, with the injuries. Yeah. He's going to be onto that pretty quickly. You know what I mean? He's going to be looking at that medical team and going like, "Come on, what went wrong last season?" He's going to be assessing all the methods, finding out what they do, passing on his experience. I think it's only going to be a good thing. It's only going to be a good thing for the club and for the team as well. So obviously, the ultimate aim is to make sure that we perform on the pitch, and to have people in like that who've got experience of working at the top level. It's only going to help us.
Definitely. This is, I think, part of the reason why he's agreed to sign for Newcastle United. He wants to build the club how he wants to build the club. And maybe this fits to why the structure is changing. Going back to Amanda and Mirdad, he wants to be able to do what he wants to do. Maybe this is what Dan Ashworth wasn't able to do. But maybe it's because there's more trust there with Paul Mitchell, and there maybe wasn't with Dan Ashworth. We're only speculating. I'm only giving my opinion. But all in all, great stuff all round. And getting these new, best in class. They know their stuff. They know the specialisms around their roles. This is great, great stuff to see. And we might not see the intricacies of what he does, but you better believe we'll see the benefits of it. and it will see the benefits of it on the pitch. No doubt about it. So really exciting news off the back of that. I am mindful we haven't talked about the juicy stuff, the transfer.
Before you do, we'll keep them waiting a bit longer.
That is holding me back.
Not yet, Pete. Not yet. You're not getting to your half day yet. Toon Timph, thank you very much for 5 memberships, and they'll be distributed among the chat there as well. That's thanks a million.
Thank you.
Timph, that's how we're pronouncing it?
I think it's Taif. Well, that's how I'd say it. Taif. That's how I'd say it.
Taif. I'm great at the pronunciation, so. But thanks a million. Pete, now you can let fly.
Let's go for it. Okay, so lots of interesting news coming about, and I said to you, Daz, but just before we went live, I was like, we haven't been on for a while, and I was thinking, what news is there going about? What have we heard? What have we seen? There's quite a few things. I want to get your thoughts on this, because this is the player that we talked about back in January, previous summer, and it's come round again, and it's a priority position, and it's this man, Antonio Silva of Benfica. And the noises from Ebola, which is a Portuguese media source, says that Newcastle United are in talks with Benfica regarding potential signing a 20-year-old centre-back, Antonio Silva. We've talked about him before. Yeah. Interesting. He hasn't had the best of seasons, boys. I'm not going to lie. He hasn't kind of pulled up massive amounts of trees. But there is still, at 20 years old, huge potential there. We're thinking about a right-sided centre-back that's coming into Newcastle United. First of all, quick question, would you take him? Second of all, is that the right type of signing to come in to Newcastle United, in your opinion? That's what you're thinking.
I'll put up Dave's comment as well while we're talking about this. But yes, I would take him. He was about a year and a half ago. He was my first choice. But as you said, he went downhill slightly. But look at that. That happens as well, ups and downs. I then switched my attention towards Ousmane Diomande from again in Portugal, but at Sporting Lisbon this time. But he didn't have the best of Euros either. He made 1 or 2 mistakes. I think if the Paul Mitchell, Eddie Howe, everyone thinks that he is the one, then yeah, why not? But we might not see him starting. It'd be crazy to spend that much amount of money on him and not be starting him. Like it could be the build him up for a year, as in getting some games, but not an awful lot. Shars number 1 kind of thing, and build him into the role and go down that way. Especially if we get him for a better price than what was mentioned about a year and a half ago, because the ridiculous release clause. So maybe it's that kind of, maybe they see something in him and they can, through working with them, they can build him up. But spending that, whatever the price may be, spending that amount of money and not being the finished article, even though he's young, it's a bit crazy too. So I would myself, I think I'd shop elsewhere.
Chris, what are your thoughts? Because Antonio Silva, we talked about, I think it was last summer, we were saying he would be an unbelievable sign. He was even linked for 60 odd million plus because of the season he'd had previously at Benfica. Not had the best of seasons, or not kind of the starring role performance that he had the season previous. Played in the Euros in the 3rd game when they were already through. Wasn't great. No. Would that sway your decision in signing him, being 20 years old, or would you still take that plunge and bring him in to Newcastle United as that right-sided centre-back to potentially be the successor to Fabian Schär?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question, Pete, because again, I always seem to say this, but we have discussed this. You're absolutely right. And I think for me, I always looked at the right centre-back berth as, well, there's 2 options for it. You either bring in a first choice right centre-back and then you obviously relegate Fabian Schär to the bench,
Yeah, definitely. It's an interesting one because we are clearly interested in that centre-back position, that right-sided centre-back position. And we have been linked heavily with Malik Tor at AC Milan. We've looked at him. There's been rumours of concrete interest, potentially even a bid coming. Antonio Silva is of a kind of the same ilk of player and roughly around the same age. I think Malik Tor is 22, if I'm right in thinking.
Great age.
Oh, he's a great age. He is 22. Antonio Silva, also a great age, 20 years old. Yeah. Make sure we get on that. And it's very, very interesting to see their kind of build up. And I just want you to we're just going to have a quick scan of these two players because, they have got some qualities. Now, looking at his overall qualities, you can see why Newcastle want him because of almost in the Shaw mode. In terms of his, his passing, his pass completion, his take-ons, which is something that Shaw has a trait of, decent tackling as well. And some of these stats, more attacking stats, are not as positives, and that's absolutely fine. But this here, with Malik Tor, is why Newcastle United want him. His pass completions, you look at his short passing, medium passing, long passing range as well, which is a trait of Fabian Schär. He's almost fit in that same mold. He's not all-rounded as a centre-back in terms of you see his defensive stats aren't amazing, but tackles in the attacking in mid-third are quite high, and that's because they try and progress their team up the pitch. Who does that remind you of? Newcastle United. We progress our players up the pitch, so a lot of the tackles are hit quite early on before there's any sort of counter-attack, and that's the style and the way in which we play. You look at the carries are decent for him, and I think he only started something like 20 games last season, and for all of the negative kind of performances of Antonio Silva in the way in which he's seen, you look at his stats. His stats are pretty good. You look at again,
Zidane stats.
Well, Zidane wouldn't be a bad player to add to that, or not a player, but a backroom staff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. But look at that passing stats, Antonio Silva. That's this season over the last year. Pass completions, short, medium, long passes. He's good on the ball, and that's what Newcastle United are looking at. His stats are far greater. He has played 30 games this season. He's played more games than Malik Tar. Malik Tar's had a couple of injuries, but you can see those passing stats are very, very good. Yeah. Green is good, as what you can see. That's what it's all about with Antonio Silva. You can see the stats are slightly better, with regards to that. You look at his defensive skills, though.
Wow.
So although he's not had a great season by his standards, the stats tell you that actually he's still doing his job. He's still playing well. And this is the one thing, we had this conversation. I had this conversation with somebody about Chiesa with regards to his performances for Italy. Never judge a player on international tournaments. Never. Because although he hasn't had the season that everyone expected him to have at Benfica, I'm sorry, these stats are fantastic for a defender. Absolutely fantastic. You look at the blocks, you look at the dribble is tackled, the tackling ability of him. So he's not just on the ball, but his ability with his feet is very, very good. Take-ons attempted. So he's comfortable, not in the 90 percentiles, but still he's comfortable with the ball, at traveling with the ball.
Yeah.
Total carrying distances. Look at these stats are great. He's 20 years old. So it paints a different picture for me when I look at these stats. And these stats, like I say, green are good. This is a player that could be, for me, one of the best in Europe with the right coaching, with the right guidance, and having not had a great season. Potentially a good fee as well. What do you make of that? What do you make of that, boys? I've just thrown the stats up to you very quickly for Malik Tar and Antonio Silva. I'm not asking you to choose between one or the other, but anything stand out? Anything kind of grab you with either one of those players? And it was a quick grab through, so I do apologize for that. But what do you make of what you've seen as potential two targets that have been linked with Newcastle United within the last 2-3 weeks?
I was distracted by all the videos popping up, Pete. But for the stats. But look, just at the top of my head, the more you think about it as well, I can't remember who said it. It could have been Sean Casey. I'm not 100% sure he said it, but or maybe it was ourselves that the Portuguese league, there's 3 teams in it. Really, you have Sporting, you have Benfica, and you have Porto. There's more than 3, but they're the high quality teams, and usually have all the best players. So the stats, I think what I'm trying to get at is whoever comes in from the Portuguese league and is young like that will have a time to adjust to the Premier League. Whereas like a Malik Tar he's up against quality opposition most weekends, and he's got Champions League football. Not so does Silva, but I don't know. I guess it's really what does Paul Mitchell and Eddie Howe and everyone else involved now think. It is unusual that he's come back into prominence again when he's been on a bit of a downer. Whereas, so it is maybe it's whatever price, if we can get him at a good price and then build him up. That's just what I'm trying to say. But I think Schär is number 1. Going into the start of the season, linking back to Rich Joblin's question. So I think he's number 1 right centre back.
Okay. Chris, anything that you took away from looking at the stats, and it was quite brief with regards to both of those players?
I think for me, Pete, it's that Newcastle appear, based on the 2, Newcastle appear to be looking at someone who's comfortable on the ball. He's got a turn of pace. And you could argue, I know Sven Botman's very comfortable on the ball, and I know that we saw him last season and he didn't quite look his best, and we knew he wasn't fully fit. But we're looking for a different type player. Sven Botman isn't best with pace. Not saying he's slow, but he's not the quickest. And I think we're basically looking for the younger version of Fabian Schär. And in fairness, you know, from what we can see, Tor and Silva both look, you know, like young Fabian Schärs, and that's essentially what we need. You know, someone who can come in, who's comfortable on the ball, has got that turn of pace, and who can kind of progress with the ball and move us further up the pitch. We want someone who is comfortable. I think the point that you made, Pete, was the fact that what was the stat? It was something like what was the stat you brought up?
I'll go back to
it proves. Yeah,
was it on Silva?
Yeah, I think it was Silva. Yeah, and you were saying that when you brought it up, you said he's clearly comfortable in possession. He was outstanding at something. There was a particular thing, and when you said it, I thought, yeah, it just sounds like Fabian Schär. So you know, he can
progressive carries.
Progressive carries. That's it. Yeah, progressive carries, and that's exactly what we need. We need someone, you know, who can kind of be that replacement for Fabian Schär, because I think it's important that you don't have two centre backs exactly the same. We've seen over the years, you know, even for England, when we had John Terry and Rio Ferdinand, two very different defenders, but they complemented each other really, really well. And I think it's important for balance. We talk about having a right-sided, right-footed player and a left-sided, left-footed player, but it's not just about that. It's about having two centre-backs who can offer you different things, but together they work as a unit. And I think that's what we need. So I think either Tor or Silva would be fantastic signings. And like I said before, it sounds like a bit of a cop-out, but I kind of feel whatever this ownership wants, I'm fully behind it. Because like I say, for me, they barely put a foot wrong.
Definitely. Just in comparison, that's Malik Tor's progressive carries, which is not as good as Antonio Silva's, but still not bad in itself. You see, it's still in the green. So it's, as you just said, it's very clear that we're looking at a very, very distinctive type of centre back. That's for sure.
Yeah, Chris, I know you have to shoot off soon, but Mike Gent, you might know him as Great Age on Twitter. Mike Gent, I love the way he changed his name. That was brilliant. But Mike says he asked me, but this is a Chris question. You normally put the comparisons side by side, so maybe keep that in your pocket for the next time.
I'll tell you what. You carry on. I'll quickly find them, and then that can be my parting shot. So I'll get that ready now. I will get that ready now.
Okay, we'll do it. So we've looked at the two centre backs that are linked. There are tentative links with Pavlovic as well. One of the Chelsea sites had reported that Newcastle, and this is from Graham Bailey, but they'd reported it through them, that Newcastle were one of three teams that were interested in him. Since then, he's a Serbian international centre back, played at the Euros against England. We touched on him before in the previous show, but again, since then, Nottingham Forest have shown interest in him because there are links with Murillo potentially today going to Wolves. Wolves are interested in Murillo, which I think is
the Killman cash.
Yeah, exactly. They've got, but apparently they want him at a cheaper fee than what Forest are wanted him for. A lot of Forest fans were kind of laughing at the fact that Wolves were even interested in him. They obviously see his ceiling far higher than Wolves. But yeah, that was an interesting one there. So let's see how that one progresses. Just really quick mentions. Craig Hope had mentioned about Matt Ritchie leaving. Obviously left Newcastle. I talked to one of my good friends before the England game, who's a Sheffield United fan, and he's very interested in taking Matt Ritchie as an experienced player. He could potentially be going to Sheffield United. I think Sheffield United have actually put an offer on the table for him. Sheffield United got a lot of players that are leaving the club or have already left the club on a free transfer. So they need all the players that they can get. Before you go, Chris, I'm going to sidestep because we've got a lot of right winger links to talk about. But I want to talk about this one, and it's a striker situation. And no, Daz, it's not Dominic Calvert-Lewin. You'll be glad to hear.
Yeah.
But interestingly, a link that came about the other day, most Newcastle fans will know about it, and it's this man, Jonathan David of Lille. And it reports that there is interest with Jonathan David. A little update from today from a good friend of the channel, Jack Talbot, and he did say he's going to be coming on soon. So we will have Jack Talbot talking with us on all things Newcastle United very, very soon. But he said that Newcastle did ask about the conditions of Jonathan David, but no talks as yet have taken place. He also mentions what we already know, boys, that Isaac Gamarez, Bruno, and Anthony Gordon will stay at the club, and also mentions a number of right-wing options that are of interest of Newcastle United. But I want to get your thoughts. I know, Chris, you're working away on those comparisons there, but boys, your thoughts of Jonathan David potentially being someone that Newcastle United are interested in. Is that the type of player that you would want Newcastle United to target and bring into the club? Rumoured to be around the sort of 25 million mark, 1 year left on his contract. Daz, talk to me. What are your thoughts?
Every day of the week. Every day of the week. You want Jonathan David. Going back about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, in my head at that stage, Isaac and Jonathan David were at the same kind of level. Now, since then, Isaac has gone to a totally different stratosphere. But Jonathan David has still continued to do his stuff in Ligue 1 with Lille. I haven't watched him recently, but I don't think I have anyway. But no, he's a good player, and what a replacement he would be if Callum Wilson is leaving as well. And definitely, I know he doesn't have Premier League experience, but he'd get that time as well to build up to that, because Isaac could be number one. He'd be playing kind of second fiddle, but getting plenty of game time, and will in the future as well when we qualify for European competition. He's not Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That's another bonus point. And but yeah, no, I would definitely take him at Newcastle. And yeah, but there's an awful lot of info about him, kind of all push all at once. Is someone pushing an agenda here to get him a move somewhere? And then it's always going to be an easy link to throw Newcastle in. But Jack is saying we did ask a question. Great. Yeah, and then this is probably the start of it now, with names starting to be linked. The cycle of names are starting to change again, and they'll continue into next week, I think, as well, and further. But yeah, definitely take him.
Chris, your thoughts on Jonathan David, mate?
Yeah, I mean, he's a player who's been linked with a big move for a while now, isn't he? And I know that you've said you've been a fan of him in the past, Pete. A Canadian international, am I right in saying that? Playing for Lille, and yeah, you know, is he a great age? I think he's a great age, isn't he? He's 24, is he?
He's 24. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great age. We'll give that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
25 million is a bargain then.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And you know, I know he's playing in the French league. But the last time we bought someone from Lille, it turned out quite well, didn't it? So you know, we had Sven Botman from Lille, and yeah, I mean, do you know what? I think anybody who comes with, you know, that kind of reputation, I think is only going to be a good signing for Newcastle United, because Jonathan David, his name has always been spoken about in recent years in Europe. You know, he has been linked with top clubs, but it's never quite happened for him for whatever reason. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, if we're getting linked with players like that to come in, again, you know, I'm excited by it. He's got a decent goal record. How he'll transition from the French league to the Premier League, we don't know. But this is always the risk, isn't it, when you bring players in? And again, to reiterate what I said before, if this ownership want him, I'm more than happy to back it, because you know, we've got to keep the faith, and we've got to kind of back what the club, what the people in charge at the club want, because like I say, they've not let us down so far. They've been really, really good success rate. So for me, yeah, I mean, I'd be delighted to get someone like Jonathan David in, because like I say, he comes with a decent reputation.
Just to let you know, with Jonathan David, he is 24. Great age. Contract's running out. Got 1 year left. It's looking like he's leaving, because he doesn't want to stay long term at Lille. He wants to obviously test himself at another level. 24 or 23, should I say, goal contributions last season.
Wow.
That's a good return.
Yeah,
so
it's
a great return for a striker. And again, I'll just flick up really quickly because I know you need to go, Chris, and I want you to share your stats on the centre backs before you leave. But just what was really interesting about here is, first of all, the player comparisons. Forget some of the other players that are in that list. You got the likes of Lautaro Martinez, but there's one very special striker in there. That's a comparison. As well as that, you got some quality players in there like Lewandowski as well. So he's not in bad company at all. Forget the Neil Mopes and the Nicholas
Mope, yeah.
I was going to say number one, but he's me a bit, Pete.
Forget those comparisons for a second. Let's have a look at the rest of them because there's some good players, the good strikers in that comparison there. But let's have a look at like looking at the attacking stats, expected goals. And assists in there, shots on target, all of these good things, non-penalty goals. You look at that, his pass completion, so he can link play. He's good with the ball at his feet as well. You go through here. What I like about that is it's similar to what Isak does as well, and Callum Wilson. Fouls drawn. He commits centre backs to create havoc within his makeup. You got some carries in there, which is great. So you got some nice stats in there for a striker at a great age to potentially go on and create big things. But the question I've got really quickly, and Chris, I'll come to you first, and I'll let you talk about the centre back comparisons. Is it a concern that some Newcastle United fans have mentioned about the potential of Jonathan David coming in with him and Isak and trading off the same position? Are you concerned of them both coming in or David coming in and maybe not starting? Do you think that would be an issue for him with Isak clearly being the number one, or do you think it's something that he would kind of relish? What's your opinion on that?
I think so, yeah. And I think as a professional, Isak's got to understand, it's a team game. They're all there to play for the club. And really, I think as well, Isak, given what happened last season, I think Isak secretly would be a bit like, oh, do you know what? I don't fancy playing, the full 90 every 90. I mean, there'll be occasions last season where Isak's probably forced. Bloody hell, if Callum Wilson was fit, I might have got pulled on 60 minutes, or I might not have had to start that game. I think it's a healthy competition is good. Yes, Isak will want to be the main man, but Isak will remain and continue to be the main man. But I think having competition and someone there to support him as well, I think that's a big thing. Yes, he'll be selfish. He's a striker. That's what all good strikers are, selfish. He'll want to play as many minutes as he can, but at the same time, he'll want to make sure that they're quality minutes. I don't think he'll want to be flogged in the way that he was last time. And I think it was Dom Scared who suggested that to Eddie Howe, wasn't it? He used the word flogged, which I don't think he appreciated. But there was elements of that going on last season. And I think your team or your club is only as good as the depth. And if you haven't got that depth and you don't have those options, you're always risking injuries. So I think bringing in quality strikers who can kind of come in and take the burden off a little bit. Let's be honest, he'd never admit it, but if we got, in the fourth, fifth rounds of the cup and we were playing away to Cambridge or something, is Alexander Isak going to be dying to play that game? Possibly not. So to have other people there as an option, someone who can kind of give him a little rest and save himself, for the bigger game at the weekend, stuff like that. He needs options. So I think it's a good thing. And knowing, not that I know Isak, but from what I've seen of Isak, I think he's
a fellow with loads of dogs.
Yeah. I think he actually enjoys the competition. I think he enjoys the competition because it just makes him trying up his game and think, yeah, go and buy a striker for 25, 30, 40, 50 million. I'm still the main man, and he'll want to go out there and prove that, and I think he will.
Bring us your comparison, Chris, before you go.
Yeah, okay, mate. So we were asked for a comparison on Antonio Silva from Sporting Lisbon. Am I right in saying it is Sporting Lisbon, isn't it?
No, he's from
Benfica.
Benfica. Sorry, Benfica. I'm thinking of Diamond. Antonio Silva from Benfica, and Ronnie Edwards from Peterborough. And here we go. So Silva is in the green and Ronnie Edwards is in the blue. So it's an interesting comparison. I mean, obviously you can see that Silva certainly looks, obviously defensively, he's stronger. Tactically, he's looking stronger as well. But you know what? From the other three positions, it's not looking too dissimilar. And I tell you what, I bet you Ronnie Edwards would probably cost a lot. He'd be a lot cheaper than Antonio Silva.
Cheaper, right?
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, and interesting stats. And like I say, particularly when you look towards the top end of the attributes, it's very, very, very similar. So yeah, I like doing those comparisons, and I think it's always interesting to compare two players. So thank you for doing that. And let's see if we end up getting linked with Ronnie Edwards soon. Yeah. Who knows?
Some interesting breaking news, not necessarily Newcastle United related, but Moussa Diaby has agreed a deal with Al Ittihad in Saudi Arabia.
I saw that, but I thought it was a joke earlier, and some people had it in the chat as well.
Yeah, he's apparently agreed. He's agreed wages. Clearly, with the Saudi club. That's probably the easy part. That's madness, absolute madness. A year after we nearly signed him, and what's going to be interesting about that is the fee, because they spent about 48 million on bringing him to Aston Villa. It's interesting to see what they get for him, but they're clearly then looking at another left winger to bring in.
I'll tell you what, mate. I'll tell you what as well. Miggy. What's key there? Yeah, you can have Miggy if he wants. 30 mil.
Well, Al Ittihad were linked with Miggy, so will that change things for Miguel Almiron?
Yeah, quite possibly.
That's the thing that could potentially affect us if they're going to get Moussa Diaby.
Yeah, but no, I think the thing that stood out to me then, Pete, when you said that was what's interesting is I wonder how the Villa hierarchy react to that, because yes, you could argue it's going to open the PSR door for them, which is great, but would it have meant that they could have kept hold of the likes of Douglas Luiz if this deal was done a little bit earlier? Because they've obviously let Douglas Luiz go. If they then let Moussa Diaby go, as well, they're losing some key players from last season. I know Diaby faded off a little bit towards the back end of the season, but he's still a really, really talented player. So it's a big void for them to fill. And I tell you what, with Champions League football coming up as well, it's going to be a big ask. Funnily enough, when I was just talking about it, then I was thinking about right wingers. Does that mean Villa are going to be looking at Summerville potentially? I know he's predominantly left wing, or they're going to be trying to get Chiesa. I would be surprised if they let him go and they haven't already got someone lined up. I'd be very surprised.
Well, they've been linked with Chiesa. They've been linked with him already. So for me, that he would be the go-to guy. And what's interesting about that, just really quickly before you go, is that obviously Juventus are ready to sell him, but not just that. There was huge links with him going to AS Roma, but in the last 24 hours, it said that he's rejected Roma because he has other priorities. So it's clear in his mind where his intent is. There's rumours now that he wants to leave Italy, he wants to play in another league, and the Premier League is of interest to him. So does that mean Aston Villa are kind of nailed on? They're playing Champions League football. They can offer that, and that's something that he'll be interested in. A little bit like Sandro Tonali was when he signed for us. We were playing Champions League football, so it's going to be interesting how that works out. But for me, it's a mentality thing. The lad's 24 years old, and he's signing himself away to the Saudi league for 2 or 3 years. That makes me think, like, where is your head at? Is your head at being the best you can be, or is your head with the money? And like Ruben Neves and a number of players, it makes me think this is why Newcastle United didn't go for these players, because maybe their intentions and where they see themselves is not in line with what Newcastle United want. Potentially.
Yeah, I think that's fair, mate. I do.
That tweet, that news I saw that aired just before the show, and I thought it was a joke. The other one that I thought was a joke, but it doesn't seem to be a joke either, is talk about Chelsea selling the women's team to themselves or something crazy like this. What?
Stefan tweeted that out tonight, and I know if you need to go, Chris, that's absolutely fine. But we're talking about this. It's an interesting one. Stefan is very, very good. He's a really good finance guy. I think previous lawyer, good friend of LB as well, because he's a Man City fan. But yeah, apparently he tweeted about this way back when, and it kind of got no interest. But apparently the reason why Chelsea were rumoured a month ago to have I think that they'd kind of, you remember when we talked about this on our show, that there was like 6 clubs that were PSR like in the red, and Chelsea were one of them. And then all of a sudden there was something out from Sky like diminishing it. And they're saying, basically what Stefan is saying when he tweeted this out earlier on today is that the reason why Sky like literally like crossed that off is because Chelsea told them to, because this is what Chelsea have done to save themselves from PSR. They've basically sold the Chelsea Women's Football Club to themselves for like 200 million or something crazy. Like it's worth something like 6 or 7 million, and they've sold it to themselves for like 200 million. And now people are question marking, and maybe rightly so, Man City in their actions. But when you're selling something that's already yours to use yourself for around 200 million, surely the same questions have got to be asked to Chelsea. Surely. And we've had the hotels previously. It's mad. Absolutely mad.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely. It doesn't surprise me, but it is ridiculous. And if they continue to carry on like that and think deals like this continue to go through, it's going to blow the doors open. It really will, because everyone will just go, you know what, we'll just do what we want then as well. Yeah. It's really poor. If that is true, it's really, really poor.
Well, you know what we should do? On opening day of the stack, we should go and sell the stack to ourselves for 300 million. Go do it. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
We're not selling Davies, are we?
NUFC women.
We have to have food in Davies.
We can't sell Davies.
Dish they had.
Well, no, we're selling it to ourselves, so it's all right. It's okay.
Selling it to ourselves, nothing changes. Don't worry, Davies will still be racking it up. Don't worry about that. We'll be going to Davies. Don't worry about that.
We're eating there. We'll have to
put you up something good. Get you some chicken going.
Chef Lee behind the.
Love it. Boys, I'm going to shoot. But lovely, great show, and I will continue to watch later. Thank you everyone for watching. Absolutely fantastic, and hopefully we'll be back on soon with some transfer news. With any luck,
definitely.
Hopefully we will.
Yeah.
Take
care, boys.
Fingers crossed. But yeah, speak to you
soon,
soon,
Chris.
man.
Mind yourself.
Take care, boys. See you later.
But yeah, very interesting. Very, very interesting how it is on.
I thought he wasn't going to go.
You wanted to stay?
I'm not leaving.
Love it. But no, it's really interesting how this is all kind of coming about. It's a mad situation how they're doing it. It just doesn't make sense, mate. It doesn't make sense at all. But what does make sense is our right-wing option, and we're going to touch on maybe one or two of these before we wrap up for this evening. But the one that is interesting and isn't going away, and I don't know why it's not going away, is this man, Jared Bowen. Everyone keeps telling us, and Newcastle fans we keep saying it to ourselves. It's not realistic. It's too much money. It's not going to happen. But he keeps being linked to Newcastle United. And Scott Wilson, as well as others in the past, whether it's Football Insider, whether it's Craig Hope that's mentioned him as part of that transfer remit, he said the same thing yesterday. Jared Bowen is a strong preference for a right attacking role. With confidence, a deal is possible. He talks about other players, Anthony Elanga, Nene Madueke, Crysencio Summerville as other options as well. But he mentions that Jared Bowen is the one. It's interesting. He had an interaction with someone after kind of his tweet out, and he says, you know, the person put about the tweet in his tweet about the price being expensive. And Scott Wilson comes back and says the figure that's being bandied about is obviously high, but the feeling within Newcastle's hierarchies, it seems that figure is unrealistic, and West Ham know it. They think that there's scope for a deal to be done. We keep talking about it. People have put in the chat, they think it's not realistic, smoke screen, all these different things that we've been thinking as well, Daz. Like, let's be honest. But it's not going away. So
let's play devil's advocate. So
yeah,
because I don't think this is happening either. But but they've got a new manager in, Tim Steinson as well, that has been given them free rein to kind of go get the players that the manager wants. The only way I could see this happening is that they decided they have all these players lined up that they want to, because they bring in that Brazilian lad as well, highly rated Brazilian lad, and they brought in Max Kilman, and they need the cash to wheel and deal, and they would see him as a valuable asset that they can cash in on, and maybe the time is right to cash in. But I still don't see it happening. But that's the only way I could see it playing out. But he would be an unreal signing for us. But no, I don't see that one happening. Yeah. Never have.
Yeah, look, honestly, I would absolutely love Jared Bowen at Newcastle United with his goal contribution. I think he got 20 plus goal contribution. I think it was in like the mid to late 20s overall in terms of his goals. Like he had a superb season for West Ham, albeit they didn't have the best season themselves, but he had a great season personally with his goals and assists. I would love him at Newcastle United because you put him on the right, you put Gordon on the left, you put Isak up top, you are getting some serious attacking threat next season. You've got a forward line there that could attack the Champions League clubs. There's no doubt about it. The problem is the fact that he's got 6 or 7 years left on his contract, a newly signed contract. He's got a new young family with a wife that is very much London-based in Danny Dyer. And as well as that, you've got a fee that's going to be high. And it does make it look unrealistic. But I don't know why. It just, you tend to see these links, Daz, with like the likes of Jared Bowen and one or two others, and they tend to just kind of disappear, and then you never see them again. And you kind of go, yeah, they were just kind of just a flash in the pan link. But he has consistently been linked with us all throughout the summer, and I can't put my head around why that's been the case. Because normally,
Fox makes a good point there about they're stocking up there. So why are they doing that as well in that position? But I don't know.
Yeah. And another player there that's been linked with Newcastle United, Matthias Sole, that's at Juventus, but he's been on loan this season, who's a young, talented player. Not got the contributions of a Jared Bowen or some of the others that we've been linked with, but it's interesting. And yeah, it could well be that they are stockpiling to maybe release him. And who's to say that Lopetegui even feels that Jared Bowen is that type of player that he would want to work with? Sometimes you get managers that come in that regardless of how good they are, they might not suit the style.
And to me, West Ham really need a striker. And maybe they cash in on Bowen and go all out for a striker. Who knows? But I still, with all that, saying all that, we're trying to play devil's advocate to try and make some sense of it. We still don't think it's happening. So
yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. But another one that's creeping up in its interest, and this will probably be the last one we kind of touch on tonight. There are others, and we're going to talk about these more on other shows that we do. Is this man, Crysencio Summerville, and Team Talk have mentioned it, that Newcastle being tipped to kind of go in for Crysencio Summerville and potentially take him and bring him to Newcastle United. Alex Crook of the TalkSport also mentions that Newcastle in the last sort of 24 hours are eyeing Summerville as a potential option. Now, the question I've got for you, Daz, is he the first team target that you would go for as a right wing? Because we've said like we want that ready-made player to come in and be that guy. Yeah. Is he for you that guy that comes in and is the guy that really kind of nails on? For, you know, there are obvious reasons for and against for him, but what are your initial thoughts?
No, he doesn't jump off the page for me. No, he's probably an upgrade on what we have. All right, but like he's an upgrade on Miggy, an upgrade on Murphy, but no, I'm expecting a more jump off the page player to fill that right wing position, especially when there was talk of us looking at Elise, and who would have been around the 60 million mark to us, but. So I expect a Paul Mitchell special in that position now. I think I said it the last day. There's so many players linked, and you can find pluses and minuses in a lot of them. Injuries being a problem for a few of the players we speak about in that position, like as in Neto and in Chiesa, and there's question marks on haven't played in the Premier League and so on and so forth for a number more is more left-sided or was more centre than an actual out-and-out right winger. So I think there's another Toon Talk has Elanga as well, a rapid player who we talked about in the Anderson deal before the whole PSR deadline thing. So I don't know. I think there's still a name that we haven't been talking about that's going to jump in into the picture, but I don't know.
It definitely, and a few have touched on this. I'll just drop it up on the screen because you can see from the heat map there that he does predominantly play most of his football on the left-hand side. He can play right and left, as it says on there. He has got the ability to play on that other side, albeit that he is right-footed, but you can see that that's where he predominantly plays. The one thing that's very, very interesting to me, which is definitely a selling point for a lot of clubs that are interested in him, albeit being in the Championship, 19 goals scored and 9 assists. Oh. That's a really good return, even for the Championship, for a player. And I think he was Player of the Season in the Championship for a reason, because of that sort of return, playing on the left wing. So, it's not out the realms of possibility that he comes in and maybe transitions into a right wing because he can play there, or does he go onto the left and Gordon goes onto the right? Because we know Gordon can play there. We've talked about it before, the transition, but it's an interesting one. Again, another one that's not really going away, even as far back as the back end of May. Crysencio Summerville was linked with Newcastle United and continues still to be. But it's one that is going to be very, very interesting because he is going to leave. Leeds need to sell him. So some team needs to kick in and make that sale. But
do they need to sell? I know they got the cash in on Archie Gray, and that was for the PSR. Do they still need to sell?
I think there's still another sale that they need to make. Okay. And let's be honest. Can you see Summerville doing another season in the Championship with a lesser squad because they've had to sell players that maybe Gray was a huge figure for them last season. Losing those players and maybe not being able to get in the same caliber is that Summerville being the player of the season in the Championship? Is he going to want to do that again? Especially the fact they didn't even get promoted. And they're potentially going in with a weaker team.
For him, it's time to move for sure. Then, right, yeah.
And that's why I think even if they don't need PSR, which I still believe they do, he will leave. He will leave the club at some point. So it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of unfolds. But it's definitely one to keep an eye on. That is for sure. I don't know if there's one or two quick fire questions or 3 or 4.
One or two. 46 quick fire questions. Are you ready?
We can fire through.
Right, we'll try and see our best. Right, Daniel Much goes, Toon. Sad to see Mandy and Murder go. Well, we think it was planned or as a result of the PSR scrap. We did kind of touch a half an hour on that at the start, but yeah, Daniel probably put that in before it. So let's move on from that one. Shull was mentioned as well. Toon Talk, we touched on there a second ago. So from Kieran, yes, Jonathan, David, again we touched on that one. Let me see, there's something we haven't talked about. Yes, Foxy, I did see Ireland got a new manager, the Icelandic former Icelandic manager. It took them to 2 tournaments. A lot of memes and jokes going around going, who is he? What is he? What's happening there? But he's better than Steve Bruce. At least we didn't get Steve. That would have been a shame if we got Steve Bruce. So give him a chance. Best of luck to him. He'll need it. Jonathan T asks, have we picked our game for the upcoming season? We have. I don't know if we're going to say it. We haven't even talked about it ourselves yet. We have picked our game.
Not yet. We have.
Take a Scott in the bag. I agree with Dave Cook here. Teachers do get too many holidays. What do you think, Pete?
No, not enough. No way. Hey, not as much as Ireland anyway. We talked about that in the last show. I didn't get, was it 3 months? I need some of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. When Hamza asks, when is Newcastle going to sign a player? Next week.
I think
next week, isn't it, Pete?
Typical. I'm not here next week, but typical Newcastle United will sign a player next week. I know they will, but I will be. I will jump on with you boys, whether it's by the beach or the pool or wherever. I
will give you a challenge, a loaded challenge.
I'm ready. I'm as soon as I get there, I'm going to be scouted to see who I can go to as my go-tos for any challenges that I needed. I'm going to scout early. That's for sure.
I want to get another question from Craig Lee because he asked it a few times, but I hadn't seen this. Kieran Maguire saying we could have 225 million to spend. Wow.
We've got the money.
We have the money, but are we allowed to spend it?
This is the thing. Like we've made the best part of 70 million on those 2 players being sold. That's without thinking about Miggy going, potentially Wilson going. We've talked about Target in previous shows. Jamal Lewis potentially, if he doesn't go out on loan again, potentially a sale there. There are a number of other players that we could potentially move on. That actually, looking at it, we could potentially recoup more than 100 million in this window alone. That should be enough for a significant amount of money to be spent just within sales alone. But we know that Newcastle United will have money to spend because of the fees and the money coming in for a league position, all the rest of that stuff. That's not out of the realms of possibility if we really wanted to, but I do believe they will not make the same mistake as last season and they will put some aside for January. I do genuinely believe that.
Okay, who gets to go for this one? I'll read it properly as I'm reading out. What's the biggest result? England beating Holland 2-1 or a load of mags trending to in Newcastle Fans TV for the 2nd year in a row? Is Adam part of Newcastle Fans TV?
Must be.
Banned, Adam. But thanks for that one. We're coming back to reclaim. We're going to reclaim that one. Toon Talk says the club have a board meeting tomorrow, which is rumored to be Amanda's last meeting. But yeah, they're back in the castle, so we'll see what happens on that. And David says if Amanda Bearder go, do they have to go into the members' draw to get a ticket? So interesting, controversial as well, that one, David. I like it. The Bearded Toon fan says, love the channel, boys. Got to have a big signing, guys, to keep the fans a little bit calmed as a lot of upheaval happening. What do you think? Yes, bring it on. Love the show, guys. Toon. Nice one, the Bearded Toon fan. Dave Asprey says, big up, Pete. Great to see you in Nottingham a few weeks ago. Much respect to all the Magpies. Dave from Forest. Nice one, Dave.
He wouldn't be saying that if we came from Morgan Gibbs White or Murillo. It's too change. But no, great to have Dave in the chat. Brilliant guy. Brilliant guy.
This is a good question. Actually, no, go to this one first from Craig Lee, because I want to know the answer here too. Does anyone know, is the away top out tomorrow? No video, no nothing. And I know Craig asked this a couple of times. I haven't heard anything talk about it.
I've not heard anything about it, but it wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me within the next, if it's not tomorrow, it'll be possibly early next week, I reckon. They'll announce it soon because everyone's going to want to be buying that when the preseason games start to kick in. Yeah, for sure. Because they're bound to announce it before we actually start playing. Because I think we've got Hull at the end of this month, and we're going over to Japan, and they're going to be wanting to potentially wear that kit then. So therefore, they're going to want to release it first and announce it before they actually wear it. So I think it'll be very, very soon.
Okay, next one going. This is a good one from Stu. I know my answer here. Taking your personal feelings out of this is the Amanda Mirabet situation. Do you think it's this is a positive for the club? Let you go here first, Pete.
100%. I think I said it to you boys separately in our chat, and I did put it out tentatively as a tweet when it first happened. Obviously, taking the love of Amanda and Mirdad away, I think it's absolutely the right thing for the club. It allows both the Rubens and PIF to properly invest in the club, because they have to go, when they invest, they have to go through all three owners effectively, and the drop down in wealth from PIF to Rubens to Amanda is significant. Their wealth is so different compared to the other two. And so therefore it will allow greater scope for the club to invest in areas that they need to invest in. Ultimately, it makes it better to make those decisions. And ultimately, they were contracted. They were contracted members of staff to the club. That will no longer be the case. So therefore, I do go back to the point that I made earlier that, there's a potential that their roles now are potentially being diluted and being almost made redundant, with the likes of Paul Mitchell coming in, with the likes of Eels and Silverstone and Bunce potentially coming in, and these positions being filled with specialist people. It means that there's less for those two to do on a day-to-day basis, because let's not forget, they were taking charge of the transfers in the first transfer window. They were taking charge of the contract negotiations. There was rumours that they took charge of the Joe Linton contract negotiation to make sure that went through. There's no longer necessarily a need for that to happen now, because they're getting the right people in place. So when you've got two people that positions are being made redundant effectively, you don't want them stepping on toes of people that have responsibilities, because you don't want to create more issues and more clashes. So as much as we love those two, long term, it is the right thing to do.
I see all the logic in that, and I see the business logic, but I think they should be there in some capacity, though, kind of ambassador roles or something like that. I can see the business, financial, and blah blah blah, but it's just.
But do you think they'd want to, Daz? If they're kind of being removed as or being bought out, should we say, not but being bought out as kind of owners of the club, and their roles have been reduced? Do you think you kind of like, I get what you're saying, Daz, and I understand it to a point. Is that for us as fans, we want them to still be there to be a figure or a face.
The face of everything. It's that kind of, it's the family link in. Like you kind of, to bring you with them. It just seems like they bring you with them on the journey, and. Hopefully it's something that similar is there in place, but is it going to be a colder kind of face going forward?
When you've been so involved in the club, transfers, contracts, making big decisions for how the club's going to move forward, and all of a sudden that's kind of taken away from you, and it's being removed because other specialist people are coming in to take that role, are you then going to want to stay at the club knowing that you no longer have that sort of influence at the club and you're almost just a face. And it sounds horrible to say, but it kind of makes you then redundant to being a bit of a spare part. Are you going to want to still be at the club in that position when you've had so much influence before? I'm not quite sure. I just don't know.
And we'll never know. Even if and when the club do come out and explain things a bit, it'll be tailored to it'll be a PR thing. So it's they can't win, I guess, no matter what they say when it does come out. So let's see what happens. It is what it is. We have to move on, and we'll move on with our questions as well. We answered this one from John as well. Do you think we'll get Jonathan Davis? And let me see where we're going next. Stu asked as well, did any of those the three as in Jamal Lewis and Fraser and someone else, I can't remember, did they report back for preseason? I doubt it, but I don't know. There was no pictures of them.
No pictures of those guys whatsoever, but the likes of like Harvey Boggs, Tonali, Harrison Ashby's just put something out. He was back at preseason with all the boys, obviously Callum Wilson. Miggy's going to have some time after the Copa America, as will Bruno. But yeah, the ones that we're expecting, didn't see anything at Target, but I think he might even still be injured. But yeah, nothing of Fraser or Jamal Lewis. I don't expect to see anything of those two either. I'm not going to lie. I think they will be just told to find another club. Like, don't come back. Find another club and move on. Like, it sounds horrible, but lots of clubs do it. They'll say tactic to move them on.
You know the video with I'm sure you've seen it, where Joe Linton comes in and he knocks on the door and Eddie Howe goes, Joe Linton, and all this. I wonder if they should do one of Fraser coming in and knocking on the door. Fuck off! Right,
the door gets opened and they shut on him. That's it.
Next one from Great Age, Mike Gent. He says, question for Pete, did you try Hooters in Nottingham? He wants to know.
No, never been to Hooters actually, and I've been to Nottingham so many times. But Lawless and Potts did. They sent us pictures from there. So they were in there, but they were there earlier than me. I had to finish work, and then I met the boys later on. But they'd moved on into the city by then because it's just out of the city. But yeah, they went there. I've never been. Personally, but yeah,
a lot of talk in the chat as well about Dani Olmo and Cubio, and a lot of talk of his most release clause, which is only up to a certain date. Actually, is it the 20th of July or something like that? And there's go on.
No, I was just going to say obviously we had the link of the. I think it's 51 million, like I said, 60 million release clause. I believe it's up until, I think I saw something the other day that said something to do with the 20th of July. It's up until, so it's not long after the Euros finishes. And obviously he's in the final. So I don't see anything happening.
He'll be celebrating after that. So,
well, no. He'll want to make his move to kind of like drown his sorrows after losing the final, so he may well do that deal quite quickly afterwards if he is going to move. But yeah, definitely won't be celebrating. That's for sure.
William Smith says he would choose whatever right centre back candidate allows him to plop down the cash to buy Dani Olmo out of his release cost. Wouldn't be a bad move. Stu alerts us to this. I know there's a few for that. That's Ali's birthday. It's Ali's birthday either today or the next couple of days. So happy birthday, Ali! Always in the chat. You know what? I'm going to leave it there in the questions, Peter. We've done loads of them. We got through a lot of stuff there. Yeah, we will be back sometime. We don't know when, but we will be back. And also best of luck to Nine and Shane Mawson in the sweepstake final.
On England.
You know what? I'll throw up this one. I saw you put it in. KK, they're just waiting for someone to come and make a bid. And I saw this little talk of Arsenal, Liverpool, Newcastle, get in there, get it sorted. Paul Mitchell, you know what to do. But that's not happening.
Never know.
That's it, I think.
Never know. Paul Mitchell could pull the strings. We don't know where his links are and who his links are to. Could be possible. Let's wait and see.
But that is it for the night. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash that like button on the way out. I think all we have to say is, how'd you like that? Half day, Pete. And then good night, everyone. See you later.
How you like